guys, this is Rashad Evans.
What's up, guys? Stephen One Boy Thompson.
This is IBF champion, Rose Smith Jr.
This is Cynthia Calvio.
Hi, this is Michaela Mayer.
This is Derek the Black Beast Lewis.
This is Daniel Miracle Man Jacob. Shout out to Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to
the Slip and Dip podcast
With your boy Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Woo! Slip and Dip podcast, episode 58. Coming back at you. Kendrick Jonathan, Matthew Wells. Got an action-packed show. Got the legend himself, Mr. Rashad Evans.
Suga.
Former UFC light heavyweight champion world. To me and Matt, future Hall of Famer. Great guy.
No question.
I think probably one of our top 2 interviews ever up on here. Also going to have a guy behind the scenes. I probably don't know the name, but you know his work. Mr. George Gallegos, the guy that's bringing us Triple G and Canelo 2. And the reason I say he brings us, he's the lawyer for Canelo. So he's giving us some insight to those negotiations. We striving for greatness here. LeBron coming to LA. What's up, man? What you think?
Oh, man. I took a nap and I woke up and the news broke, man. The news was official. LeBron James going to LA. Gonna be a Laker wearing that purple and gold, man. It feels good. Feels good. Like I said on Twitter, man, any of you fans want to come at me, or any of you people want to come at me, I got my receipts in my Laker fandom for life. I got the receipts.
Oh, you already know I got my receipts. You already know. I'm not even. I wish somebody would. I've been a fan back since '96 when they said the Charlotte Hornets trade the 13th pick to Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah. That's I've been a fan since then. My whole thing is that we need somebody else. Christmas didn't come early. If I get a Kawhi Leonard mixed in with the DeMarcus Cousins, then Christmas came in July.
Yeah.
We just going back to the playoffs now.
Yeah,
we're not title contenders.
Yeah,
we're just back in the playoffs.
It does not mean we're getting to the Lakers. I say we. It does not mean that the Lakers are going to the finals. Obviously, whoever comes out of the West, though, is probably more than likely going to win the championship. They still got to get through Golden State. Still got to get through Houston. Man, it's going to be a hell of an upcoming NBA season.
I'm actually not worried about the Rockets.
Lakers aren't done yet. They're not done yet.
No,
They're not done yet. So we'll see what other craziness comes through the wire in the next couple of days.
Just like boxing and UFC, the NBA is a young man's game. I'm not worried about the Rockets. You give me the old Chris Paul, $40 million a year for the next 4 years. Good luck with all that. Love Chris Paul. Hats off on getting your money. I'm all about Ken folks getting their money, but thank you for letting me. That's I'm a step closer to give me some more championship gear. But I digress.
Right. Yeah. NBA free agency is hot, man. It's hot, but not as hot about what's about to happen this week.
That segues to the UFC 226. Your boy gonna be in Vegas catching a hot plane tomorrow. I'll be out there for the NBA Summer League. I'll be on the streets doing all kinds of craziness with UFC 226, International Fight Week, the Hall of Fame. No telling who I'm going to bump into. I'm not even putting no expectations. I just know I'm going to have some stories for you when I come back and talk to you next Sunday. I'll have some stories for you. I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but something's going to happen.
It's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be crazy. 2 fight cards, UFC fight cards going down. One on Friday nights. Ultimate Fighter finale. Israel Adesanya, Brad Tavares, going to be a banger at the headliner. And, of course, the Ultimate Fighter finale winner who wins that tough season. And then, of course, UFC 226, Stipe, Daniel Cormier, Max Holloway, Brian Ortega. Man, coin flips all around. I don't know who's going to win, but I just know I'll be glued to my seat and at the edge of my seat, even standing up. You know, it's going to be madness.
Just flip back to basketball for a second. Lance Stevenson has just signed a 1-year deal with the Lakers. The LeBron stopper is coming to L.A.
So he can't blow in his ear anymore. That's crazy.
Only in practice.
That's crazy. Can't blow in his ear anymore. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be an interesting time. But, yeah, like you were saying, man, we got some fantastic guests on the show. Rashad Evans, George Gallegos, man, they both give us some fantastic interviews. Kendrick, I mean, you're going to be out there in Vegas, man. You know how these international fight weeks go. So let the people know that are listening that have never been to an international fight week. What's it like out there with the fan experience?
If you're a real MMA fan, you can see anybody except a John Jones or Conor McGregor, and you might see Ronda this year since she's in that retirement mode and she gonna get her Hall of Fame plaque. Usually you don't see her there fight week, but this time I'm pretty sure she'll be a little bit more visible back in the MMA fold. Everybody gonna show her some love because without Ronda, there's no women's MMA. So even people like somebody like Cyborg. She driving in that Tesla running around in Orange County, and she needs to tip that hat off to Ronda. Let's be real about it.
I know Ronda will be present. I doubt she will be available to anyone.
Yeah.
She will show up for the Hall of Fame speech and dip right back out.
But your boy gonna be bebopping everywhere. I might bump into her with some back channels. Don't put it past me.
Yeah, I'll tell you like
Don't put it past me.
I'll tell you like this. For people that have not experienced International Fight Week, it's like Disneyland for MMA fighters.
Everything. They be all up the strip. You can watch them on. You can watch parties. They have watch parties at Hooters and Buffalo Wild Wings. They already had a thing. My wife ran with Dana White in a 5K. Like, she actually had a conversation before. I've interviewed him a couple times since then. Before I even had a real conversation with the man, because they whisk him away in media circles.
Oh, yeah.
Mariah had talked to that dude, which is crazy.
Yeah, man. The whole fan experience that they do, the expo that they do, it's incredible. It's usually a 2-day event that they do. Interviews, autographs, photo ops, little things where you do take crazy photo things like, sparring and all that kind of stuff. Like, they do a whole bunch of crazy stuff out there. They'll have jiu-jitsu competitions going on, I'm sure. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, they had, the International Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Association out there putting on events. So there was like 5 cages set up and they had fights going on. It was craziness. Yeah, it's quite an experience. If you've never been out there, I'd highly recommend going to one and taking it all in, man. Plan it out. And to cap it off, not only do you have all that, you have 2 outstanding fight cards. UFC 226, man. Again, this is you can't miss any of these fights. Yeah. Not a single one.
Hey, you never know, you might birth a podcast. The Slipping In podcast was birthed at UFC 200. A bit of all I still think that's crazy. And I was at 223 week. I still think that was crazy because you had 2 astronomical events versus just one. Because we had Conor at 223, being one of the few people that was at both. At 200, we had the John Jones craziness, and we had the UFC getting bought. So that's why I think we'll never see that again.
Yeah, and even what's crazy is that as I said on last episode, I was like, I hope none of these fights fall out, man, because
people be ready to roll it. This week is the week that they don't care if somebody fall out. Somebody will step in on a day's notice.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? But we already had one casualty, right? We see Paul Felder had to step up to fill in for to face Mike Perry. Paul Felder, a friend of the show.
He's moving up?
He's fighting Mike Perry.
I talked to James through text. He's being respectful. Man, I'm not putting you on shoulder. He said, I'm focused on this main event. So he got his main event because we've been pushing for that man to get that slot. So somewhere in Calgary, I forgot who it's against. You're better at that stuff than me. I know, or it's in March. Is that Calgary?
Are you talking about James Vick?
Yeah, James Vick.
I don't know how we got on James Vick, but yeah, James Vick's fighting Justin.
Because he was fighting Paul Felder. When the Paul Felder fought, he got the main event slot, and Paul Felder slipped. That's why.
Right, but yeah. So James Vick is fighting Justin Gaethje. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
They tied together, brother.
That's right. My bad. Yes. So Paul Felder was left without a fight.
Yes.
But then the UFC matched him up for this weekend coming up against Mike Perry. So that's going to be a hell of a fight, hell of a scrap. And yes, James Vick is fighting Justin Gaethje, a guy who he was very, very less than complimentary of on his last appearance here on the Slip and Dip podcast. So I will just say that much. Go back and listen to it, guys. Go back and listen to it and check out what he had to say about Justin Gaethje and his fighting style. And of course, if you follow him on Twitter, you kind of already get an idea, but it is what it is. Yeah, hopefully you know other issues, man. Hopefully the scale doesn't claim anybody. We have 12 fights officially now on the UFC website. Hopefully this bout order is a little bit rearranged because they got Felder and Perry, the first fight on the card, and that's not ideal, in my opinion. But all right, we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, anything else you want to get into before you get into these interviews with UFC Hall of Famer, former or future UFC Hall of Famer, Rashad Evans?
Hey, please give us your comments, man. Rashad gets into some deep stuff from his career to race relations in the UFC, a lot of real stuff. So if you want to be a studio gangster this week, please put your name on it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Rashad Evans, fantastic interview as always. Yeah, guys, hit us up. Let us know how we're doing. Give us your thoughts and comments. Please like, subscribe, share. Sharing and liking and subscribing is the way we grow the show. We don't do any advertising officially, so help us out, help us grow the show. We get some comments. some things from time to time. Oh man, I found the show. Like, this is crazy how you guys don't, aren't as big. Like, well, you got to share. You got to share. You got to subscribe. You got to like.
Hey, but we're working behind the scenes. We might have some people coming on board.
Yeah, we got some people interested, man. I don't want to tip the hand rather too early. But we got some things in the works, so hopefully things pan out. But we are definitely growing. We're definitely growing. So yeah. At Slip and Dip Podcast, guys, on Twitter and Instagram, at Kendrick Johnso, at Mr. M. Wells Art. Find us there on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. Hit us up. Any questions, comments, kudos, whatever you have. All the hate. We get enough hate already on our Angela Lee interview still to this day. So, throw all the hate. Just put that on that video. Put all the hate on that video. It's just going to be in the sea, where people expected us to attack someone for the actions of someone else. It's still mind-boggling to me. But whatever, that's what it is, and yeah. So we'll hit you guys with Rashad Evans here first, and then George Gallegos second to talk about Triple G, Canelo, and a few other things in the world of boxing. And that's where we're at. International Fight Week coming up, guys. I'm excited. I don't know who's winning, but I know it's gonna be.
Oh, you gotta get a prediction, bro. For the record, I got DC and I got Max Holloway.
Okay. Oh, you want me to give a prediction? Nah, I don't know. Listen, I can't give a prediction without sounding like I'm hating on the win of the other person.
Ain't no hate. You only got 2 choices or 4 choices.
Yeah.
How we hate?
I mean, listen, I'm gonna say. All right, here's my prediction right now on a Sunday evening at 9:45 p.m. I'm going to say in the co-main event, I'm going to say Max Holloway retains his title. In the main event, I'm going to say, I don't know. I want to see history made, man. I want to see it done. I don't know. Right now at this moment, with a 51% confidence, I'm going to say Stipe Miocic gets it done. And still, 51% confidence. That may fluctuate throughout the week. I can't. I hate putting myself in a position to not pick DC to win anything. So that's what it is right now. Love you, DC. Don't get mad. All right, that's what it is. That's where our not too confident predictions lie right now. But enjoy the rest of the show, guys, and we'll hit you up after International Fight Week with some more guests and a lot of reaction to everything that went down out there in Las Vegas.
Please welcome a special guest making a Slip and Dip debut. He's a future Hall of Famer, former UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, Rashad Evans. Rashad, thanks for coming on. We've both been big fans of you personally and professionally, man. Hats off to a hell of a career, man. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure being on.
Give us some insight to what made your decision. Was it an easy decision or just something that you've been thinking about over the last little while?
Well, I mean, it's never an easy decision giving up something that you've been doing for the last 15, 17 years. So it was definitely a hard decision, but I felt it was a necessary one because, I've reached a point where I couldn't mentally put myself where I was at the height of my success in order to compete at the level I needed to compete at against these guys who are still yet to achieve what I've achieved in the sport and have yet to see what it's all about. It's like once you see what's behind the curtain of eyes, then the mystique is gone, and it takes, for me, it was hard to, I guess, to put myself back to sleep in order to continue to compete with the same mindset that I did before.
How do you feel that since you made the announcement, you had people probably from past opponents to a lot of these young guys that let you know they looked up to you and about you being a pioneer in the sport, especially being a pioneer for African Americans, as you know, the sport's lacking that, and you've been one of the most positive things for the last decade that represents that.
Yeah, it's been very I guess healing is the word I want to use, just because you never know. A lot of times you don't get to smell your roses while you're still alive, and I got a chance to, feel the love and appreciation that everybody had for me, and when you're in the sport and when you're competing, you're a competitor, and people don't really let you know that kind of thing, because at that stage you're still somebody who may go against their favorite fighter or whatever the case may be, and you're still in the game. But once you get out of the game, then they say, well, you know what, that character wasn't so bad. We're gonna miss you, and then they start to really let loose how they really feel. So it was good to see that kind of response.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back at your career, man, like if you go down the list of your UFC run, your UFC tenure, the names that you've shared the octagon with, like Hall of Famers, left and right, champions, former champions, is there a particular one of those people that you were most proud to be able to say, yeah, I stepped in there against that guy and we fought it out, win or lose?
I can't really say there's one, because a lot of these guys, these guys are legends in their own rights. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how do I distinguish between Chuck Liddell and John Jones? In my opinion, two of the greatest to be at 205. So, or Tito Ortiz, who doesn't get nowhere near as much, I guess, appreciation for what he's done for the sport. So it's really hard to really start to pick when I've had so many of these pivotal people, these amazing people, the Mountain Rushmore, I should say, of the UFC. So it gets really hard to say there was one.
Yeah. My very first UFC event that I attended live was the fight against Rampage. My very first one, on the heels of that tough season. I told my fiance, I was like, we're not missing this fight, so we made sure to go attend it. The season itself was hilarious. I still remember the promo package, that they put on right before the actual pay-per-view portion shows, and it was you, and how they do the black and white thing with you talking to the camera, yeah. Rampage talking to the camera, and I believe the very last thing on that promo was you just saying, fuck Rampage. And then the show started, like the music hits.
Yeah, man. That was a special time, man. It really was a special time, and you really get to understand I really got to understand how special that time was when I got to spend some time with Rampage when we filmed the movie, a month before I fought, and it was one of those things that was just like, wow, you get to realize, how special that time was with each other when you're together with each other, and you see the response from people around, and then we both start talking about our different memories leading up to the event. And honestly speaking, we can have a full, 2-hour conversation about the whole fight, but never really talk about, the fight itself. You know what I'm saying? Just everything and that's the most amazing thing about it, because you forget that the other person on the end that you're fighting is actually another person that's going through the same thing you are in some degree. So it's good when you finally can sit, when I was able to finally sit and talk to him and get his perspective on different things, that he was going through that I was facing at the same time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you say was your best performance, or just like that was Rashad Evans at his apex?
Oh man, I don't know. We can look at the highlight reels and see, when I've done well, but I don't really know if that even puts it in a capsule. I would say if. I guess for a soundbite, the performances when I fought against, Forrest Griffin, Chuck Liddell, those are great performances, because in those fights, I had to battle through some adversity, and I had to, really dig down and really make a choice myself. Okay, what kind of fight was this going to be? The Forrest fight in particular, I go back to the corner and Mike Winklejohn just straight up told me like, yo, you're blowing it. And it reminds me of the old, like if he was Mick from Rocky, he's like, come on, kid, you're blowing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I envision, when he said, come on, you're blowing it, come on. I'm like, all right, man, time to wake up. We need to get this going.
How's it cool to see? I know because you do a lot of stuff at the desk for Fox and stuff. To see like some of these youngsters, like how they kind of slide in the cage, or Rashad Evans style, or do like I call it the monkey man. You know how John does, kind of stuff that you the first cat to do, and cats are still doing it. It's kind of like how when people have dressed a certain way in different sports, they see some of these old cats and they kind of like tip the hat to them.
Yeah, I used to be like, oh man, that's my style, only I can do it. But then when I got older and really started to look at things, I seen the beauty in it, and I'm just like, wow, that's an impact right there. That right there it says everything. Like that is the biggest flattery of all time. Imitation, and I'm happy that I was able to influence. I'm happy that I was able to make people feel me. And people always ask like, what is going to be your impact? What do you want people to remember you for? And it's like, it's really hard to say, but I just hope they feel me, man. I just hope they feel me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one thing I've been fortunate to cover a couple of your fights, as a member of the media. I did, and usually the way I do interviews is I don't write down questions, and sometimes that causes me to forget questions that I want to ask. Right. So at the fight, a media day before you fought Dan Kelly at UFC 209, Tyron Woodley, was also on that card, and at the time, like all the media was talking about, him bringing light to all the racism that he was facing and things like that. And I meant to ask you at media day, I completely forgot, so I'm gonna ask you now. When you were a champion, did you feel that you had faced some of the things that Tyron was speaking on, and still things that things that Tyron still speaks on today when it comes to being a black champion in the UFC?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced it, but my take on the whole thing is, it's unrealistic to expect a sport to be different than what actual society is. The sport is a microcosm of what society is in so many ways when it comes to that, that type of, when it comes to getting behind a person, it's a microcosm. So, of course there's going to be that in the sport, because there's that in reality, there's that in our country, and it's a problem in our country, and it's a problem that our country, really needs to face and really need to have a conversation about, but they just don't know how to have that conversation and truthfully have the conversation and really get off, what they really feel without feeling like they offended someone. And then, in truth of the matter, when you do have a conversation and when you do start a conversation like this, you're taking, sides that you don't necessarily understand. So of course there's going to be some language used or some understanding that may come across to be offensive, but that's the point of the conversation, right? To demystify the whole thing. So it's a problem in society in general, not just in MMA, but I did experience that.
Yeah, even for media members, we experience it. My whole thing is, it seems like maybe you know better than me. It seems like a lot of people in UFC are not comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it's just because they don't know. Like me and Matt are probably two of the most mildest brothers. We all got relatives that are way crunker than us, and we get labeled as hostile because we come from a different angle. Is that kind of something you experience?
Yeah, of course. You have to pay your color taxes at all times, no matter what position you play in society, and it's just a part of existing in the society that we do. We all know that to some degree. We call it switching up when we go to jobs and stuff like that. you got to switch up. You know what I'm saying? In order to be able to be heard, in a sense, and it is frustrating when you have those I guess those expectations put on you unfairly so because of what you appear to be. But the biggest job that I took pleasure in, it was just kind of just shaking people's idea of that box. You know what I'm saying? And some people, they will put me in a box and, well, oh, you're kind of like, well, you're black, but you kind of have white, and these are terms that they look to kind of put me in. But the truth of the matter is, what is black? What is black? You want to say that I'm black because I fit a stereotype in which you created, but that's not black at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's these concepts that we have to challenge, and these concepts that we can't get frustrated and get upset because they exist. Now that they exist, okay, what are we going to do about them existing? How are we going to handle each other? How are we going to correspond with each other? And that's or even talk about these things that exist. How are we going to have a conversation about it where it actually leads somewhere?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I've always heard, like, throughout my life is, like, like you talk white or whatever. Like, what does that even mean? Because I enunciate my words properly. Like,
we both get that.
I know how to write a paper. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I've gotten that so many times. I get that all the time. And it's just ignorant. It's just ignorance. But the whole idea of feeling like you need to be a certain kind of way, just based on societal box they want to put you in, it has led to many young people many young black youths who don't really understand themselves to act in a way that they may have not have, just because they're trying to fulfill that role, and it becomes a role you're trying to fulfill. It becomes a character. And we just got to shake that whole frame of thought. The biggest problem that we face in our culture is the fact that we haven't taken control of our own identity and say, no, this is who we are. We've let that narrative to be dictated by those who have not understood us.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
So does it blow your mind the fact, like, what DJ has accomplished, what DC has accomplished, and what Tyrant has accomplished? They kind of make it like a footnote. Oh yeah, Demetrius Johnson, he might be the best pound for. It's like, oh, by the way, it's not something that's like in your face, like it is in other sports, or that DC has a chance to be like maybe considered the GOAT if he gets this win. Like, we're bringing it up as in the media, but it's not being promoted that way at all. Yeah.
It's not though, but DC's been able to do his amazing thing, but the thing that holds DC back from people really understanding and appreciating what DC has done is that John Jones, the ghost of John Jones in the background, and that's one thing that always will raise doubt in people's minds. Like, yeah, he was good, yeah, he did this, he beat this guy, and he was so dominant, but then he couldn't beat John Jones, and that's one thing that unfairly so stops DC from getting this credit that he deserves.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So one thing, we've noticed in the last, towards the end of your career, you switched from light heavyweight to middleweight and then back to light heavyweight again. One of my biggest things in this sport is the issue of weight cutting. What do you make of the state of weight cutting, across the board? Do you think guys are still cutting too much weight? Would you like to see more guys compete at their natural weight, or what do you think can be done with this?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see guys compete more at their natural weight, but that comes with a certain confidence that a lot of these fighters really don't have. And not to try to take a dig at them, but it's hard because we've been brought up to believe, you drop the lowest amount of to the lowest weight you can if you're a bigger guy, and then that way when you get onto the smaller weight classes you'll have an advantage, and that thinking is age old. So it's really hard to change that whole mindset, that whole narrative for a lot of these competitors, because they can't see it any other way than what they were first taught, you know. But I found for myself that competing at my natural weight is the best thing that I've ever done for my body, and it's actually the biggest reason behind my success.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things that I was able to do because I was a smaller fighter. You know, and a lot of people don't really realize this, but fighting is a mental game. It really is. It's a mental chess game played with some fear, with some physical, really physical moves. But at the end of the game, it's a mental game. It's a mental game. What you put into your mind right before you walk out, and months leading up to it, and the training that you've done mentally to put yourself in a place where you've already defeated yourself. And if you really do it the right way, you defeat yourself. No one can beat you when you get to that level. When you get to that level, when you mentally defeat yourself to the point where you are willing to die and willing to make yourself feel like you're going to die, but you've trained your body, you've trained your mind to understand that you won't. That takes a lot of discipline, because a lot of people, they can push themselves, but then that feeling of, oh man, something might happen to me, I think I might die, they stop. But there's something on the other side of not stopping. And that's what it takes to be at that upper echelon that you see in the UFC, the greats like John Jones, you know, Anderson Silva. And I'm even going to put Conor McGregor in, just because Conor McGregor is a mental freaking warrior when he's out there. That kid, his mindset, his mentality, and what he puts into his mind and what he believes about himself is second to none. It's second to none. His mental capacity and his self-belief and what he tells himself, the kid can write a book about what he does. And it can help everybody.
Yeah, no doubt.
So give us some insight to what was behind your walk-ins, because your music would always be spot on for what was like the theme of that fight. My favorite one was that Mobb Deep, when you and you got Tyron Small was like getting crunk like y'all at the club in Bucket.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of set your mental tone for that fight. Is that something you did like just naturally? And then that mortal technique was pretty clean too.
Yeah, that the music was the I guess the soundtrack of my camp, and I'm an old school hip hop kid. You know, I grew up. It's called old school now, but I like the essence of where hip hop used to be, and you know, that was a soundtrack of my life growing up. So I would go for these runs, and I would go for, like, you know, and when I was training for wrestling, and I would listen to the same music I play when I walk out, and I would really envision myself doing exactly what I was doing walking out in the UFC. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just envisioned myself like, okay, I'm like Mike Tyson and I'm walking out. You know, this is what I'll walk out to. And it would get me hyped. You know, so that became my motivation music. So when you hear my walkout music, that's the jams that I put on to when I want to get ready to kick some ass and tackle on whatever project that stands in front of me.
That's a good mentality to life, man. I'm the same way, so I can appreciate that. I'm like, my man coming to get somebody. So what is Rashad gonna tackle next? What's ahead of Mr. Evans in the future?
You know, I've resisted the temptation to label it. You know, and I've done so just because I wanted to live in this space, and I wanted to live in a space of uncertainty. I want to live in a space of fear. I wanted to live in a space of just not knowing. You know, my whole life, my whole adult life, I've had a set plan, a destination. It was marked out once I started, and I just want to live in that space, the in-between space for right now, and just really see what that's about and just embrace it, because I'm sure there's something in this in-between space that I can learn that was just, that is just as advantageous as if I busy myself or busy my mind with something else to come up with. I think a lot of times in life we're so busy to try to be busy. What's next? What's next is all about what's next. The minute we accomplish one of the greatest things in the world, the next question is, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And instead of just, even tackling it or even thinking about it, how about just be? And right now, I just want to just be.
Yeah, I think you've earned it, man. I think you've earned that mentality, especially, considering the career you've had and, all the wars you've been inside the cage, man. I don't blame you for having that mentality, right? Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy it. Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely.
How do you think you're gonna? I know you were talking about in a couple of other interviews that you had that fire to compete. Like, has the things like jiu-jitsu competitions like kind of piqued your interest at all, or are you just gonna completely walk away from that kind of stuff?
I love jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is my first love, so I think I might just do some jiu-jitsu competitions when I feel the edge to want to compete, or just go to the gym and spar with those guys on a Tuesday or Thursday, and then get my fix that way, because otherwise I'm gonna be jonesing for it, because it's just phantom pains, If I cut off my leg, I'm still gonna feel like I have a leg, So it's just me just getting used to those phantom pains, or finding a way to redirect that energy, because that's all it is. It's just energy that I've been using that way for so long.
Are you still going to be breaking down fights and stuff?
Yeah, I'm still going to be doing that, man. I can't walk away from that. That right there is, to me, one of the best things about the sport that I like still. I still like to be able to stay close to it, but I love to talk about it. And if I can give some insight to a fan and help them better understand the sport, then that's what it's all about for me.
So I gotta ask you then, who you got in the main and co-main at 226? I got DC and I got Holloway.
Man. Okay. Those are really, really tough ones, man. I wasn't trying to skate on these answers. I try not to answer these questions when I'm not made to, because then there's no excuse when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, you picked such and such," because if I'm working, I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, I had to. It's part of the job," and they can understand that. But if I'm just like doing it on my own, then I'm just an asshole to them in their minds. But I like you, so I'm gonna risk being called an asshole. I think that between Max Holloway and Brian Ortega, I think Ortega has he's going to meet his match in Max Holloway. But I think the thing that makes Max Holloway great is his size and just his raw nature, just toughness. On top of that, with his overall skill level. But I think that with Brian Ortega, he's going to meet somebody that has the same size. He's the big guy Ortega is, and Ortega has a confidence that I haven't really seen in a long time. And it's just that confidence that knows that no matter where this fight goes, he's going to find a way to get it done. And secretly speaking, everybody looking at Ortega's jiu-jitsu, but his stand-up has gotten so much better that people are not really taking note of his stand-up, and not until they get into the cage, and then that's too late by then. So I think Ortega's going to get this one. I think it's just he's just vibing on a different level right now.
About that main event.
The main event, this comes down to the curious case of Stipe Miocic. He's one of the, I guess one of the most dominant heavyweight champions in the heavyweight division of all time. But then you gotta, people are like, oh, what about Kane? But I'll say that Stipe has definitely he's past that, but I don't think he's past that in the hearts of many people, or them believing that he's that guy. But I do believe that Stipe is that guy. But then he's going to go to DC, and in DC, he's perfected himself to be the DC we know at light heavyweight by beating up heavyweights. So this is the perfect matchup for DC. And now the question remains: has DC forgotten or lost a step when it comes to competing against these big guys? And now that he's a bit older, and now he's a bit more weathered, as far as competition wise, are those attributes going to make him? They're going to still be what he needed. And DC's a friend of mine since college, so I got to go with DC. But this is a fight that I think that Stipe is definitely going to show a lot of people a lot of stuff.
Very nice.
Are you expecting to go 5? Because a lot of people think it's going to stop. I think it's going to go 5. I think we're in for a classic.
Yeah, I think this is going to go 5. I think it's definitely going to go 5. I think that the way that the DC can fight and the engine that he's got, and then this fight, stylistically speaking, it's going to go 5 because you got to think about it, it's a heavyweight fight, so it's going to be the first round and a half. We're not going to see nothing but just poking and prodding, and then the second round, it's going to heat up a little bit more, and then it's going to go.
Yeah.
So.
Completely switching gears on you. Are you on LeBron watch? Who do you think LeBron's going to end up with? I'm a Laker fan. I got my Laker gear on right now. I think he's coming a lot out there and going to end his career in Hollywood.
I'm a big LeBron fan. I love LeBron, the person LeBron is, and I don't even know him as a person, but I just admire him on a level of not getting lost in the whole thing that we call fame, because it is such a treacherous thing, and a lot of people don't really understand it. But if you experience some level of success at this level, and he's at exceedingly high level that I could never even dream of being, and he's never faltered one time. So that right there speaks volumes of the character that he truly is inside. So does he go to Lakers? I don't know. It'd be interesting, and LeBron's all about the interesting, so I can see him pulling that move, but I also can see him not wanting to bruise the hearts of the people of Cleveland, which he calls home. So I don't know if he's going to make that choice.
Yeah, for sure, man. It'll be interesting to see. We've already seen a lot of craziness going on in the just the 24 hours.
I mean, here's the reality. No matter where he goes, he's going to have to build a team around him, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have to build a team where they're going to have to get used to him. He's going to have to learn a new system. Well, his team, he took a team that was that honestly speaking, they weren't ready. They weren't ready, but he willed them to achieve things that they really shouldn't have been able to do. Now that to me is a big step in the right direction. Now you add a couple of pieces into that whole thing, and despite how they got handled in the finals, I think you can make a good recipe for a world championship team. Just add a couple pieces here and there, or even just during the summer, get these guys to believe and get on LeBron's level mentally. Then you got a different team altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think wherever he ends up, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, he's capable of taking whatever squad to the finals or conference finals, just depending on which conference he ends up in. So we'll see. We'll see it shake out. Last question for me, Rashad, man. I mean, obviously thank you for the time on the show today, but if you could change one thing in MMA, in the world of MMA, what would it be?
Dang, that's a loaded question.
Exactly.
That's a loaded question.
Exactly. It is on purpose.
The one thing I would change is I would just change that the fighters be taken care of more. And it's not the fact that they're not and the UFC doesn't do their job. They have definitely closed the gap, but there's still a lot more to be done. And I think the Performance Institute is a step in the right direction. But there's other areas, that can definitely help out a lot of these fighters and just help them to, you know what I mean, to grow as people, to understand, you know, the relationship between them and the organization. And I think that when that gap's closed a little bit more, then you're going to get better quality of a product right now. You know, I think that the UFC may be at a cusp of you know, it may be changing. You know, a lot of things are changing inside of the organization, and in order to make sure that change actually includes the fighters and not having the fighters split off, you know, that's going to take some work. But I think that you know, bringing the fighters around and to, you know, doing more things for the fighters to help the fighters, I think that's going to be that would be the best thing in MMA.
Fantastic answer. Can't argue with that. Yeah, man. Rashad, man, thank you so much for the time, man. Legendary career.
Much respect, man, personally and professionally, man. Appreciate you always showing me some love. I met you a few years ago running around with Eric Williams, get some shots of you behind the scenes.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys.
Shout out to your brother,
I appreciate you, man. And I appreciate you guys too, man, for having me on. And you know, keep doing what you're doing for the community, man, and just, you know, keep letting you know, bringing MMA to the black people, and to get them to understand what a beautiful sport this is. You know what I'm saying? We don't only got you know, basketball and football and stuff, sports like that. You know, we you know, there's MMA, and MMA is a beautiful thing.
100%, man. Thanks for
the best interviews we've done, man.
Yeah, one of the best ones for sure. Thanks again, man. Me personally,
no problem, man.
Personally, man, I've enjoyed your career, man. I've been fortunate to see 3 of your fights, 2 covered as media. Thank you so much for the time today, obviously. And we'll look forward to talking to you again, man. Maybe break down some fights in the future or something like that.
Okay. All right, y'all take care, man. I'll talk to y'all soon.
All right, take it easy. Thank you.
Please welcome to Slip and Dip Podcast, making his Slip and Dip debut. You won't know who this guy is. He's behind the scenes, but he knows what's going on. Mr. George Gallegos, the lawyer of the stars in boxing. Thanks for coming on, George.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Give us some insight to all this craziness that had the Canelo and the Triple G fight. Why was the hang up in the second round of negotiations and all that stuff? How did all that go?
Well, we actually just signed both parties signed the contract on Friday. So even though it was agreed to and announced, the tickets hadn't gone on sale because there wasn't an actual signature until Friday. You know, there was a lot of concerns from Triple G side regarding testing and officials and cancellations because it's a May fight. And it just took a while to get both parties to agree. And I think also there was, you know, now which I think is interesting is there's a genuine dislike between the two. You know, there's not going to be a face-off. They don't want to be in the same room until fight week, which is really interesting, and I think going to make for a much more action-packed fight for the fans. And I think that was an underlying tone that kind of made, you know, Triple G take his time and maybe make Canelo a little bit irritated and kind of anxious to kind of. I think there was some gamesmanship there because of that.
Is that dislike because of, you know, the whole Clenbuterol thing, the drug testing, and maybe the first fight or the fight fell out, or what do you think is the cause of that genuine dislike?
Well, I think with the testing, you know, Triple G has made some remarks regarding him cheating before, and Canelo. I mean, he takes his job serious. I mean, that he doesn't want his record tarnished, and he trains hard, he works hard, trying to be the best in the world, and then for someone to accuse him of cheating, I mean, that's probably like the biggest insult that you can make. So I think that, you know, Abel Sanchez was stirring a lot of trouble, and then I think when Triple G, you know, made those comments about seeing the marks on his arms and Canelo knowing that that's, you know, a complete lie, that really started, I think, whether it was, you know, kind of boiling underneath, I think that set it over the top.
What about the public posturing when De La Hoya came out publicly like two or 3 days before the fight got announced and came to terms? He was like, the Canelo train is leaving the station. What was all that for?
But I mean, at some point, we need to make a fight in September. So I think that there was a delay on Triple G's team as to whether they wanted to do it or not, or say they wanted to do it and not, signing the contract or kind of waiting to get back to us. So I think that was real. I mean, you could say it was posturing, but look, if we didn't get it signed, Canelo's going to fight in September either way. And at some point, it gets difficult to, sell tickets, and we need to promote the show. So it was more of Oscar just saying, hey, look, shit or get off the pot. We need to do something. So I think that's what it was more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy to see all these things go back and forth, especially on the heels of the fight falling out and the drug testing and everything, and you guys trying to schedule a fight. Is there anything that you could possibly see? I mean, I know you said that they just signed paperwork. Is there anything that you could possibly see that would prevent the fight from going off this time in September?
No, not at all. I don't think so. I mean, so what a lot of people don't know with regards to the testing was that this was the first time that Canelo had ever been tested in Mexico. So all the other times when he gets tested, he's in San Diego, because he comes to San Diego 3 months before the fight. That's when they start the testing. And this time he was waiting on a visa, and he didn't come out to San Diego till like 2.5 months. So he started training, and I think if you guys like to look into it, there actually some footage of him training at his gym in Mexico, and that's why the test came back, because he's never worried about what he ate, because he's always been tested in San Diego. So now, obviously, he's taking all precautions, making sure that there's no risk at that. Triple G's camp is required certain conditions, and all of those will be met. I mean, Oscar said he's bent over backwards to make the fight for the fans. So I don't see anything that's going to prevent it. And if anything, I think, the bad blood from both parties is going to, I think, cause both of them to really try to knock each other out this time.
And there's a fan out there who's like, okay, Canelo's a multi-millionaire, probably the second richest guy in boxing behind Mayweather. How come he can't get no clean meat to eat? You think they're in the right to have that opinion?
I don't think so. Look, I mean, if you look, there was at the NFL, there was a Houston Texan who was suspended initially and then appealed, and he gave receipts showing that he ate, I think, some steaks and burgers, and the appeal was granted. He won. So I think it's something that that just sneaks in the meat. So you can't. What happens is, with ranchers, aren't supposed to use that substance, and ranchers will use it on like a baby calf. So by the time it gets to the butcher, by the time it gets to you, I mean, you have no idea what the rancher's done in China and in Mexico. This is a problem. So I mean, it's like anything, right? I mean, you could be there's 20/20 is always hindsight, and you could be the richest guy, but even the rich guy likes tacos, right?
Do you think the fact that there's going to be a whole year between fights for Canelo, his longest inactive streak, do you think that'll affect him, or the fact that he's a younger fighter still benefits him in this one?
I think that's going to be interesting. I think that's a good point. I mean, he's taking a year off, so is he going to be rusty? He had the knee surgery, which I don't know if you guys talked to you about. So he had like a minor knee, like a knee. I don't even know what it was, but some kind of minor problem that got fixed, and I think it could. I think that's a possibility, but I think he's focused. And I mean, I don't know how much work Triple G got with his fight. I mean, I think he's had tougher fights probably in the gym, right? I mean, so I don't know. I don't know if Triple G is any more active when you have, what did he fight, a round, and then I don't even think. I think he kind of let him. He took a few jabs the first round, and then he put him away. So I don't know how sharp that kept Triple G. He's older. I mean, it's going to be a good fight either way.
Yeah. In the first fight, the first matchup between the two, there's a lot of speculation of, and even some outright accusations of Adelaide Bird and her scorecard. on that fight. Has there been any talks with the commission about having her not judge this fight the second time around?
Well, we can't. So we don't control the commission, right? So they get to decide what they want to do, obviously. But we are trying to make sure that we're trying to do as much as we can to make sure that the officials will be neutral or satisfactory to both parties. I think that'll happen, but ultimately the decision is the commission, because they make the decision. We can make requests. We can make joint requests for specific officials. They ultimately decide. They will make that announcement typically they make that 2 weeks before the fight. So they can't even really tell us who's going to be the officials, because then, leaves it open to all of you guys, all the reporters who then will talk to them. So they wait until it gets closer. They release the names. Those people get appointed, and that's how it goes.
Interesting.
What do you think of people that put Canelo as an underdog for this fight on the Vegas tip? What do you think about that?
I think it's good for everyone betting Canelo, right? It makes some extra money. I think that there's a perception that Triple G won the first fight. So I think that the way the odds work with Canelo as the plus, that attracts more money, right? So if I'm going to bet, so much more money, and now I know he's a plus, and I don't know what it is, but if he's a plus, now I might lay down double, and I think that part of that is a factor, right? They want to attract the Canelo money, and they want to kind of increase people's bets. I mean, if I see a fight where I think there's going to be an underdog that's live, and if there's good odds, I can put it just because of those odds. I think that's part of it. Like I said, there is a perception that Triple G won the first fight. But once it comes down to closer to fight week, that's when those odds really move, right? It all depends on what the casinos want to do.
Well, so
I don't think it's a big deal. I think that's more kind of the business of the line. You gotta attract money.
So if you were giving somebody some advice to bet, how should they bet this fight?
I would bet Canelo knockout. That's going to be the best odds. I think with Canelo, look, I think it's a 50-50 fight. And if you're getting odds on Canelo, there's no reason not to bet on him. He's a younger guy. He has more to prove because of this controversial draw that everyone's talking about. He feels that he's really upset. I mean, he's really upset about it. And then I think with the accusations that Triple G made, I think that's going to motivate him to do more. And I think if you're a boxing purist, if you look at the fight, I'm sure you can probably find things that Canelo could have done a little different. Whether it be a couple rounds or a couple strategies different. I don't know what Triple G is going to bring different. He kind of has, one way of fighting which is effective, and he hasn't had to change that because he's been so effective. But I can't. I mean, it's not like Canelo is going to start moving more, right? So I don't know what Triple G is going to do differently. And Canelo knows his punch, and I think Canelo is a little more athletic. I think he's going to be able to adapt and have a better game plan.
He's off there. I would never bet against Canelo and knocking it out unless he's fighting like a Errol Spence or somebody. But I know the two most brutal knockouts I've seen in person have been authored by this man, a.k.a. James Kirkland, in the Amir Khan shot. So I've seen the power up close. I was third row ringside for both of those vicious KOs.
Yeah, and look, when it gets into the later rounds, I mean, you break a man's will, and things can happen. I would probably bet Canelo. I mean, but with the odds on a knockout, I'd put a little bit there just to get yourself a nice steak dinner, and if a case comes through.
Yeah, current lines online are showing that he's a plus 150, Triple G's a minus 170, and over 11.5 rounds, essentially a decision, is a huge favorite at minus 235 right now. So that's the way the lines are laying right now.
So you gotta look at those odds, right? If it's a 50, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but if it's somewhere near 50-50 or 55-45, whatever, and you're putting 100 on, and you can make 1.5 times, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely,
that's right.
Absolutely, yeah. There'd be a lot of people interested in not only the lines and obviously the fight, but I mean, all the recent talk of the sports betting going nationwide and being legal everywhere, that's going to be a huge thing, I think, coming forward too. But this fight in particular, I think the lines are, I think they're accurate. Like you're saying, they will fluctuate as they usually do. As money starts coming in, times get closer. We see promo packages, we see, you know, training videos and stuff like that. Oh, who's looking better? Who's looking good? Who's looking more pissed off? You know, all that kind of stuff always affects the line. So it'll be interesting to see as it gets closer.
Yeah. Boxing odds are always kind of different too. I mean, I don't know how much you guys follow it, but they're always kind of they're more on public perception and not necessarily, you know. So there's a lot of times on fights that you can find some odds that are kind of off because they're not as well known, or I think it's a little different. I think this is one example. I mean, for a minus 170, almost a 2-1 favorite, I think that's a lot. I think they're taking it. I think they're overvaluing the year and the drug testing, but you know, I mean, they always know best, so we'll see what happens.
Do you think there's any chance we see Canelo compete in the DFW area, whether it be at the Star or at Jerry World in the future?
At Dallas?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that, you know, this level of a fight, because what Las Vegas can offer us, it really made it difficult for Jerry to compete. But you look, you know, Canelo, Golden Boy, we love Dallas. We love going down there. I definitely think that we'll be back there. And I know that there's been some talk about, you know, maybe another fight being there. I think just for this fight, because of the economics, because what the package Vegas can offer, that's why we went there. But yeah, definitely, I think we'll be back in Dallas.
For sure.
Well, it has to be against a high level, either like a Charlo or Earl Spence, don't you think, to make that fight to pull it off the way y'all want to? Because I know I was very surprised y'all did 55 with Liam Smith. And a lot of people in the boxing game know who he is, and you got some guys that are from Texas and have a name. I'd like to think y'all could probably do about 80,000. What you think? Since y'all did 50 with Kirkland and 55 with Liam.
Yeah, but I think at this point, you know, Canelo wants the best fight. So, you know, Jacobs is there, the Charlo brothers are there, or the Charlo that one of the Charlos is there. So, I mean, I think the boxing fan is going to know that's a good fight. So it could be, you know, a local like Spence, but I think if you have somewhere competitive, I mean, Jacobs is a big guy. That presents a different challenge for Canelo. Jacobs can move more, right? Triple G's is there, and he's coming forward. So some of those fights, I think, present different skills against Canelo that it's going to be interesting to see. He's never fought a guy as big as Jacobs, you know, a guy that can move. And I think that, you know, with the popularity that he's gotten from the last two fights, I think he could do a lot. You know, he can still do those numbers with different opponents.
Very cool.
Give us some insight to the perception that I have to explain to a lot of people. Like, for instance, like this whole Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua thing. Everybody in the boxing game knows Eddie Hearn does not want no part of Deontay Wilder. We're not sure if Joshua was scared of him. But some people were saying, especially before Canelo fought Triple G, that Triple G and Golden Boy are scared of XYZ fighter, when we both know that Canelo is not scared of anybody. But it seems that way with Golden Boy not want to put him against everybody. It seems like they're ducking and dodging. What do you want to say about that perception?
Well, I mean, what people got to realize is that you also have to look at the economics, right? So you want to have certain fights when they're right, when people know them. So my guess for Hearn is like he signed that contract, that huge contract, and I'm sure he got that huge contract in part by having Joshua. So he can't afford to put as the first fight Joshua Wilder and have not subpar numbers, but numbers that will look much lower if he has that next year. And I think the same thing with Canelo Triple G. I mean, I think Triple G was gaining some momentum. I think with the Jacobs fight that helped him. And a lot of times, from a fan perspective, you want him to fight, you know, whomever. But from a business side, you have to wait till the opponent can draw the most money and then place that fight. Otherwise, you're not maximizing it, and it could have happened later. So I think that's sometimes something that people don't realize. I don't think Joshua was scared of Wilder. I mean, you could see the punch coming a mile away, right? And I mean, I don't think Wilder's looked spectacular, but I'm assuming, and I don't know this, but I'm assuming Hearn has some concerns with the big contract, with probably saying, hey, we're going to have Joshua twice a year, and why risk that fight now? So the economics kind of get in the way of a lot of good fights.
That's true. I mean, I know you're a guy that's behind the scenes. You're in the negotiations and things like that. But as the fan side of you, like, does it even spill over? You're just like, can we just make this happen?
Yeah, but you get so it's a little bit tricky because you have to think of the business side. It's like anything, right?
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
you can't just. That's the job of the promoter, and then that's partly my job as an advisor to kind of look at things and look at different angles. So I think it's easier for me just to put on the switch caps, because that's kind of what I do for a living as a lawyer, right? So if I love Kendrick, but if he's in trouble, I got to tell him, hey, Kendrick, you might be in trouble on this one, and I can't. My personal feelings can't be involved, right? Yeah. So you no matter how much I like Kendrick, if he's in trouble, I got to tell him the truth. So I think it's a little bit easier to switch for me. But yeah, and I think it's frustrating too, because you don't. I think it's frustrating, or I could see how sometimes there are fighters who want to fight, but then the economics don't make sense. Like, let's say for example, the fighter, the Irish guy that fought on May 4th that we have.
Okay.
What's his name? I forgot. Sullivan,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So he wants to fight Triple G. He wants to fight Jacobs. But, not everyone knows him, and he looked pretty good against Antoine Douglas. But that fight, that fight he'll get. And maybe it'll be Canelo, or maybe it'll be Triple G or Jacobs. But he wanted to do that in May. He wasn't ready. People are like, oh, he said he wanted to do it, and now he doesn't. So a lot of times there's just a lot of other factors. It's kind of hard for the, it's hard on the fighter. He doesn't always have all the decisions, because if it's up to the fighter, most of these guys will fight anybody anytime. There's a few that I think are a little bit scared, but most of the time they're ready to go. It's just the promoter that has to be smart.
Get some insight how Golden Boy is like the Switzerland of boxing. Like the I can't say we're not a Cold War. It's a thawing war. But it seems like Golden Boy they've done a fight with PBC. They've done a fight with Top Rank. What's behind them mixing and matching when that has not been the norm, as we all know, over the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, a lot of it, you got to remember, a lot of that was started with Richard Schaefer, right? So the Cold War really happened when Richard was there, and for I think that kind of carried over because Richard had kind of created that Cold War and really publicized it. And I think it carried over. But Oscar's always wanted to make the best fights. I mean, whether it be in his career fighting whomever the public wanted, and even now he wants those fights. And I think it's just a matter of working together. And there's a little bit of mistrust, I think, in the beginning. So it takes a while, to kind of get things rolling. So I think being involved in the negotiations, I know on our side sometimes there's a little bit of mistrust. Like we're doing Pacquiao. We're part of Pacquiao versus Batiste, right, which is a mixed promotion. Lomachenko-Linares was a huge fight, and so sometimes at the beginning there's a little bit of mistrust, and then once those things get worked out, it makes it a lot easier. But I think a lot of history there. It's like it's trying to work with your ex-wife. Try to get a deal with her, and you know what she's gonna do, right? You think if she's nice to you, it's because she's trying to trap you, and she might be nice to you. So that's kind of, I think, the obstacle. But the great thing now is that that we've done those fights and we've shown we can work together. The networks like it. Lomachenko Linares was an incredible fight, which required us to get together. I think that opens the gates for us to do it more often. So that's exciting.
What's the craziest thing in your time of being a lawyer for these boxing stars the craziest thing you see there in negotiations from anybody?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What's the craziest thing you've seen or somebody done in negotiations? Did that fool just really do that? Like, that just blew your mind.
You know who sees the crazier things are the managers. I think when I was managing, I was managing that 7-foot Chinese giant.
Yeah, we saw the YouTube
video. Watching that video of the interview.
Yeah,
with you guys, he 7 foot, 7 foot guy, really muscular, hit really hard, and the first fight I brought him John Bray, who I thought was a perfect match because he worked with heavyweights. He's a big guy. John wanted to really make him kind of a George Foreman, right? Like hit your opponent in the shoulder and the arm. It doesn't matter. Just hit him. He's going to feel the power. That's going to change the game right away. And if you can't move the body, so punch him in the shoulder, punch him in the arm, and things will open up. So that was the strategy. The first fight, he did well. Then he wanted his wife and him wanted to be fast. And I don't know how we're going to make you fast. There's not, that you're 7 foot, you're muscular. There's, you're 400 pounds or 300 pounds, whatever. So I think the funniest thing was when we switched to Buddy McGirt to get speed, and Buddy's a good guy, so we said we want to make him faster, and I think Buddy just laughed. He said he wasn't God or something, just a trainer. And then they wanted to do this. They wanted to do, and I'm talking about the wife, wanted to do a punch like a jumping hook because they had seen Mike Tyson do it. So the wife, who's like 5'4", maybe like 120, is just jumping around fast, thinking she's boxing and doing this jump and speaking Chinese, and me and Buddy like have no idea what's wrong with her. Like, why would you jump? Mike Tyson had to kind of jump because the opponents were taller. You're already taller. They were insistent on that punch, so he would practice it. Buddy just practiced it. We just went through the motion. I think when you're a manager, the demands you get from the boxer are crazy. I mean, I think for that fight in Houston that we had, he was mad because one of the people on our crew was going to the bathroom too much. Weird stuff, man. Weird things. So I think the managers have, by the lawyer level, you're kind of protected. So you have lawyers or promoters who's not really telling you the full story. I think more of the managers have the crazy, or the trainer has the crazier story that they see. I'd imagine so, man. I'm sure there's some other things.
I'm sure you go out a book.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting being around all those types of high level athletes. The business side of things, it can get a little complicated at times, I'd imagine. But yeah, I'm sure you, like Hendrick said, I'm sure you got some stories you could write a whole book on, man.
Yeah, well, I'm working on. I'm gonna put Kendrick on a couple pages.
Me and George got some behind the scenes stuff. I would say this, appreciate the love, brother, because this man. That's why I'm betting 1,000 on this show. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, it'll be good. The other thing too. Tomorrow at 9, Golden Boy's making a big announcement that I've been working on and that Oscar is really proud of. So stay tuned tomorrow at 9. There'll be a press release out. Golden Boy is partnering with making a partnership, kind of going to change the game, kind of change the way boxing's viewed. So, we're working on the fan experience, making sure fans are engaged and getting the best experience and really trying to do stuff behind the scenes. So that's something that Oscar's excited about, and we're excited about. You guys will hear about tomorrow.
Oh, you can't break it on here?
I can't. I got to keep my job, right? I don't have enough in my book.
Come on now.
I'm only on chapter 2, and I need to get a little bit more stuff on there.
Yeah, we can't ask the lawyer to break the news. Come on now.
Right. Not yet. No, not yet.
Come on, man. But by the time most people listen to this, it will be Monday morning, afternoon. So by the time that the hours, it'll just be a few hours away from that press release coming out. So I'm anticipating whatever this is. It sounds like it's something huge. So look forward to seeing that.
Something big. It's definitely a game changer. It's definitely something that's going to be interesting, and we're excited about it.
Nice. But George, man, thanks for coming on the Slip and Dip podcast. We appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Gave us some great insight to what really goes on behind the scenes, and Yeah, man, I can't wait for this fight to go off, man. Triple G Canelo 2.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be in touch, brother. Look forward to hanging out. Me and George got some cool stories. Hanging out on the strip late nights.
Yeah. You guys got my information to send me that check for this interview, right? Got my address?
I'll see you on the table somewhere out there on the strip or some sports book.
Slap some chips over to you.
All right, guys. Hey, it's a pleasure. I like all you guys are doing, and I wish you guys the best. Continue to grow, and anytime I could help or have something interesting to say, I'd be more than happy to come back and share with you guys.
I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.